Welcome back to LinnFit Coaching. We are here talking about a fun topic today. We're talking about vegetarian or plant-based diets versus non-vegetarian or animal-based diets. So this is like a mixed diet where you're having a little bit of everything. So what's the difference between the two? How can you find a balance between both? What are some strengths and weaknesses of both? So we're just going to have an open conversation about this. And there is no absolute conclusive way to come at this. Is nutritional science is something that's always evolving, and there's always people who fall into certain ditches where they get totally bought into a certain way, but there is no certain way for all people. So let's get into the details of that. All right, Matt, this is a big topic. We get asked these questions a lot, where even as clients are working with us, and when people are on a nutrition and health journey, they are really, it's a matter of exploration. They're learning their own emotional ties to food. They're learning their own tendencies. And oftentimes that leads to a desire to experiment, whether it's a short-term diet or a popular diet that's all over the media. Or someone's written a book about it or something like that. But also we're open to inviting people to experiment for a day or for a week. If they bring up a diet that they want to try out, they'll go for it, and we want to help them do it better. And it's part of the learning process for people to figure out what works for them. So we run across a lot of different ones. What are some big ones that we get asked about?
Yeah, here in India, a lot of people will be veg, or a vegetarian, or at least mostly vegetarian. They may eat some type of animal product, maybe on Sundays, and that's really the only time that they would eat that. And then, of course, here there's just a lot of different, a lot of people that only eat maybe one type of meat, or people that are just really hesitant about others. And so that's a lot of things that we get asked about pretty commonly. And then vice versa on the American side, most people will go every day and have meat. Sometimes multiple times, probably oftentimes multiple times, have some type of animal protein. And so it's really kind of a cool place to be. We get to have the balance of both. And like you talked about, there's not one diet that's perfect for everybody, and so I think that's why the experimentation is so great, because people can find what works for them individually.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy we get asked about all these things. We do a lot of consulting in India for various businesses and professional athletes, helping people establish systems, and doing a lot of coaching for coaches, and doing a lot of nutrition coaching and everything as well. And in America, and around the rest of the world, we do a lot of online coaching to be able to provide people that flexibility to get in that nutrition coaching and the exercise wherever they need on their own schedule and everything. But yeah, we run across all different forms of diets, where a fully plant-based diet is kind of a fad in America, or on the opposite end of the spectrum, a fully carnivore diet, which is zero plants. So it's people read both of these, and you have people who are huge proponents of one or the other, and they're like, well, which one's better? For an average person who's just trying to explore better health in general, they see these two things in the media, and they're like, well, this person seems like they're doing fine. This person seems like they're doing fine. They say that the other person is totally unhealthy, and who's right? And so, what do we say to that? And as a nutrition professionals, it's our job to be able to kind of help people understand, to create more clarity. Why do I want to ask this question to you? Why do people tend to sort of fully commit to one? Especially the authors of books or proponents in the media and stuff like that. Why do they go all in on one sort of way of eating?
Yeah, I think at least for people that are trying to sell books or programs or anything like that, they're trying to sell something, right? They're trying to make you really want what they have. And so if they come at it and say, oh yeah, if you do a little bit of this and a little bit of this, then you might see progress. that's not really that compelling, right? Like, oh, well, I'm already having a little bit of animal protein. I'm already having vegetables. Like, why do I need to change? That doesn't make sense. But if they come out and say, oh, the carnivore diet is the best diet, you should only like have animal products, basically. That's much more compelling to people because it's easily, like, you can control that. It's easy to plan for diets like that are like all the way on one side of the spectrum. And so I think that's why a lot of people that are selling books or programs for different things will tend to do that, tend to go toward the extremes. So.
Yeah, yes, it's so true. Like whenever someone is a huge proponent of a diet, they have to do that in order to sort of catch your attention. But when you look at every type of, like every way of eating, every sort of named diet or anything like that, they all have some certain things in common. They all encourage regular exercise. They all encourage better food quality, as in less processed, more minimally processed foods, whole foods that you would, that you look at it, you know what it is. Like, all the ingredients. It's like the raw form of it. And they encourage basically portion control, like don't eat too much, and so like with those few big things that every diet proposes, like the makeup of the actual details of the diet can vary super wide, but you'll always see kind of extreme language to sort of make you think that any other way is totally wrong, or like you'd be unhealthy. And so like a totally animal-based diet might say plants are toxic, and make that a blanket term, or a plant-based diet might say like, oh, like we've been living off of plants for hundreds of thousands of years or something like that, or speak to the environmental impact of anything. And so it creates this huge debate. But we want to get kind of more to the core of things. We want to get more to like, what are the benefits of anything here? And we're going to avoid the conflict, the debates about certain diets, because I feel like that's just sort of drama and kind of a mess that's not necessarily worth our time all the time. Like we want to help you guys sort of see through all of that and understand, like, okay, we can take things from multiple different proponents, multiple different diets and everything, and kind of take what fits us best in our current lifestyle, with our current body, because every single body is different. Everyone's life situation is different. Your budget's different. And so according to that, you can find solutions nutritionally and with your lifestyle that work for you. So for some people that maybe they have high food sensitivities, maybe they have a lot of problems with a lot of plant-based products. And so a very animal-based diet would super work well for them. Or maybe someone has a lot of environmental concerns. They just feel, or they just love animals, and they just don't want to, they just don't have a good picture in their mind if they're having an animal product. They don't want to take advantage of animals in any way personally. And so a plant-based diet could work well for them if it works for their body. And so we want to kind of cut through all that. We want to get straight down to even just like the molecular level a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about the science. What's the valuable things from plants and from animal-based products? And so let's talk about like the essential things that we need in our diet, the macronutrients. Okay, and let's compare the two and see how this. What do you need to do in order to be able to get what you need? And so let's talk about like protein first. The macronutrients: protein, carbohydrates, and fats. Protein is an essential nutrient, and research shows that the normal RDA of 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight is kind of like a base survival sort of amount. And they're actually finding that anywhere from 1.2 to even as high as 2 grams per kilogram of body weight is completely safe and actually can help you function at a better metabolism, better maintain lean mass better, maintain performance and activity a lot better, and so has a side benefit of just keeping you fuller for longer. So protein is an important, essential nutrient. But whenever we're comparing the two diets, how do you actually achieve that?
Yeah, real quick before we dive into that. So you talked about about a gram of protein per kilogram, and that would be something that people would eat every day, right? Okay. So I want to make sure that we're, clarifying all that stuff. But
Oh yeah.
You asked about how do we achieve eating that protein, right?
Yeah. How do we get that protein from plant-based sources to animal-based sources?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, the animal-based, sources are going to be higher in that protein value, whether that's actual animal meat or eggs or different things like that. And then if you're on a more plant-based or vegetarian diet, you're going to have to be a little more creative with your protein. You're going to have to specifically choose different lentils or different things that are going to be higher as far as plants go in protein. And that's something that being in India and talking with different people that are vegetarian, that's been a pretty common thing to come up, that people are kind of struggling to get enough protein. They may be really high in carbohydrates that they're getting, but protein is always a little difficult if you're not consuming animal products.
Yeah, I mean, let's consider let's say a portion of meat. Okay, so let's say it's chicken or any kind of red meat. From 100 gram portion, which is roughly 4 ounces, or roughly the size of a lot of people's palm, that's going to be around 20-ish grams of protein for that. And so you get a lot of protein per serving. But whenever you think of, let's say if you're on a plant-based diet, your best bang for your buck type of foods are going to be lentils or more of the ancient grains such as quinoa, amaranth. Brown rice has a little bit less protein than these ancient grains and stuff. So, but you're only going to get roughly 9 grams of protein from those sources. So you end up having to eat basically twice as much to get the same amount of protein that you would get from one source of meat. So all that to say, it's completely possible to get all of your essential amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins, from plant-based foods, but you have to eat significantly more, and with that comes more carbohydrate because they're plant-based sources. Beans and lentils also are dense in carbohydrates, as well as grains, and they also have a lot of fiber, which if it doesn't agree with your digestion, that can create some stomach distension or bloating, gas, and even you could be that person in the room who's creating the smells of the room for some people. And so if your gut isn't right, then having a ton of beans and lentils may not work well for you. So just to say, you might have to eat twice as much of the plant-based foods, and you have to have a mix of the green leafy vegetables, the lentils, and the grains to be able to get all of those. And if you also have dairy or egg, like eggs, you're gonna get roughly around 7-ish grams of protein per egg. And so even if you just add a couple of eggs into the plant-based products, a lot of vegetarians will include egg. You can actually increase your protein content really quick with adding just a few of these. If you're not going to have meat, you don't prefer that, it's totally fine. If you would like to add some egg in there, you can increase your protein content real quick.
Right. You talked about needing a mix of different lentils or different vegetables. Mm-hmm. Is that because they're not a complete amino acid profile, more like meat, or is that for some other reason?
Yeah, there's 9 essential amino acids that we need. They're called essential amino acids because we can't create them ourselves as humans. And so we have to get that from food in order to support our body structures, our body systems, and the way that our body's functioning. And proteins are not just used for muscle. It's also used for our cellular structures, our hormones, a lot of our enzymes and everything that we use for digestion. And so it's used for so many things. Every structure in your body has proteins. And so we have to get these 9 essential amino acids. But there are pretty much no plants that have all 9 essential amino acids. in creation. And so there are some that have almost all of them, such as like a drumstick leaf or moringa leaf. And soybeans also have quite a few essential amino acids, but they don't have all of them. And so, but what is amazing is that animals have been created to consume plants and process them significantly, and they assimilate all of those into their bodies, and they have all 9 essential amino acids whenever you have an animal-based product. And so you get all 9 of those. And so you would have to have a mix of different. So if, like a classic example of like a meal that you could give someone, a plant-based meal would be like beans and rice. Whenever you get beans and rice, you get most of all the essential amino acids from that combination of a lentil and rice, because they separately have all 9. But from an animal-based product, you get all of those.
Right. Awesome. Yeah. So that's a lot about why we should have protein, and why how that can kind of play out, whether you're plant-based or choose to have animal products in your diet.
Yeah. Essentially takes more planning if you're all plant-based. And so we're not trying to tell you to have animal protein, to each his own.
Right.
But on a plant-based diet, you have to think ahead. You got to plan. You got to really listen to your body, see what foods are working for you and which ones are not. And same goes with animal-based stuff. Some people don't agree with dairy. Maybe you can't have that sort of animal-based product. Find which animal foods are working for you.
Right, and that's that experimentation. Just keep trying different things and see what works well for you.
Yeah.
So for people that do have animal products, or are used to eating different meats or eggs or things like that, why should they consider having like vegetarian meals or vegetarian days? Is there a benefit to that, or is it not really necessary?
Yeah, with a lot of the research that's out there, kind of like a general conclusion that you can make is that more plants can be good.
Yeah.
And so especially for someone who's generally not having many plants. And so unless you're having a lot of organ meats where you're able to get some other vitamins and minerals, if you're just having sort of the traditional cuts of meat, you're not going to get a lot of some essential vitamins and minerals. And so if you're having more plants, the colorful plants, like from every different color spectrum there, you essentially get a mix of essential vitamins and minerals that you need for all different body processes. And so those vegetables are super great. And having that variety also just creates variety in your diet. You're not one-dimensional. And so finding different ways to prepare them, make them taste good, blend them together with other things, it's going to create a variety that just makes food more interesting and fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But with, let's say like carbohydrates and fats. Okay. So with plant-based versus animal-based, blending those together, like why do we need carbs and fats? What are they kind of mostly used for?
Yeah, carbohydrates are the energy, right? They're the thing that's going to keep you moving, help you push through that workout a little easier than the proteins or fats will. That's why you'll see a lot of people that are working out really hard, whether they're running a marathon or different things, they will have carbs like before and in the middle of their long run. They're trying to just replenish those energy stores. And so that's like a lot of the, like you mentioned, vegetables and different things are going to be a lot higher in carbohydrates than like animal products, which is great. We need those just like we need protein.
Yeah, I mean, with carbs and fats are essentially just energy, but we also use them for different things within our body. Like our brain just loves using carbohydrates in some shape or form, whether that's if you're on a keto diet, your liver will literally create its own form of carbohydrate to fuel your brain. And if you're eating carbohydrates, our bodies will prefer to use those because they're more of an immediate energy source. It's easier to do that than using fats. And so, and fats are harder to digest, which makes them, help you stay full, and they're more dense in calories, so they take a little bit longer to digest and absorb. But we need both. because even just our cellular structures and everything are, man, that's hard to say sometimes.
It is. It's a tough one.
We need those fats for our lipid layers and everything in our cellular structures and everything. So we need all of these. And even if you're into performance, you're doing any kind of high intensity exercise, those carbohydrates are going to be a preferred fuel source. You'll be more efficient, more powerful, have better performance in the long run in that high intensity explosive type sport, or a sport that has a lot of explosive efforts if you are including carbohydrates in your diet. Does that mean you need to have a really high carbohydrate diet? Not necessarily. It doesn't mean you put a mountain of rice and bread and stuff like that on your plate and just a little bit of everything else, because you might be missing other things. But to include them is important. So like on a plant-based diet, naturally you're going to end up having higher carbohydrates. So because of that, you're going to have to work at getting the protein from the plants you're eating, and you're going to naturally have more carbs. So it might make sense for you to try to reduce the amount of fat you have in your diet as much as you can in order to not overeat, to just get way too many calories. So we really have to play around with that to find what works for you. If you're on more of, if you're including more animal-based products, animal products naturally include some muscle-based glycogen, which is a form of carbohydrate stored in your muscle, and has a higher fat content naturally. And so you might have less overall carbs, less carb-dense plants in your diet, just have more vegetables and just have more of a balanced diet. And so depending on what you want to aim for, you might make up what you're putting on your plate a little bit differently. But we need those leafy vegetables, the watery vegetables, to get a lot of our micronutrients, vitamins, and minerals. So those carbs and fats are energy that we need, but depending on what way you want to eat, it can affect how you make up your plate. But if you're having, it might make sense if you're a total meat eater and you love putting tons of meat on your plate, it might make sense to do some vegetarian meals every once in a while to change it up. It could get you a dose of carbohydrates that could help fuel some exercise you're going to do, but also might just get you a heavy dose of plants that you may have been missing for a while on your plates.
Yeah, absolutely. I think having that mix of different things, even if we tend to lean one way on our diet, just being willing to change it up every once in a while is great for our bodies, just to make sure that we're getting all those micronutrients, that we're being able to get all those different amino acids, and everything that our body needs. It's not, if we're stuck in one rut or one ditch, it's going to be more difficult for us to function and stay healthy in the long term. So
yeah, for sure. And you can see there's lots of people in the world who are fully plant-based, and if you look at their blood markers, they're completely healthy. You notice that they have quality foods, unprocessed foods, and they're regularly physically active, and they're finding what works for them. There's also people who eat nose to tail, like animal-based, which is a different form of like an elimination diet or a keto type diet, and they're totally healthy. But you see the different types of activities these people do. You might see that a different diet works better for a certain style of activity you like to do. And so we want to encourage you guys that it's completely possible to be extremely healthy on whatever diet you choose. But the core things is just working on understanding your body, finding portions that fuel who you want to be, as far as how lean you want to be, how active you want to be, and also fitting in socially with your family and friends and everything. You can make anything work. And if this is something that, as we talked, you're like, wow, this is actually a little bit more confusing now because it seems like everything works, but how do I even do that? If you need some guidance, that's what we're about. Like, we're here to help you on that journey and help you experiment, and also help you get some more clarity and what are the core skills you can do and the core needs that you really have. That's what we do with our online nutrition and lifestyle coaching. We help it work for people. So if you guys like this episode, give us a review, give us some feedback, shoot us an email on our website at LinnFit.com. Otherwise, we'll catch you guys on the next one.